How fitting. I mean, just how fitting, Dolphins fans, for this roller coaster season to come to an end in the playoffs on just the ultimate roller coaster game. I mean, geez, I got a lot of thoughts, a lot of takeaways on today's Fins Up Network video, which is going to end up being the final recap and takeaways video of the 2022-2023 NFL season. But like I said, before I get to mine, I do want to hear from you. Please, as always, drop your thoughts, drop your comments in the comments. That's what they're there for. Thoughts on the game, big plays, top takeaways, things you want to see throughout the offseason. Go ahead. It's a venting session down there, baby. Just go ahead and air it all out. But like I said, I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of takeaways to get to. So let's jump right in. And I'm going to start with the obvious, because what happened again today? Getting plays in late. And to be honest, I thought we did a pretty good job getting the plays in a timely manner until the fourth quarter when it mattered most. Final game of the season, tight score, playoffs, when it mattered the most. And what happened? You start getting the false start calls. You start getting delay of games. You start getting near delay of games, which cost you your timeouts. We were out of timeouts with 4 minutes remaining in that game. And as you know, because hindsight's 2020, how that game played out, timeouts might have been nice, but no, we're out of them by 4 minutes. Not because we're trying to preserve clock or anything, but because we can't get the damn play in. And this is the issue that's been plaguing us all season, and it's now happening at the worst possible time. And you know what it was? Our last offensive drive, 4th and inches. It turns into 4th and 6 because we can't get a play in on time. This is like, it just feels so elementary right now, because instead of when it's 4th and inches, what have we done this year? Quarterback sneaks, running backs right up the middle, fullback plunge up the middle, bring the tight end in motion, plunge him up the middle. All of that stuff has occurred, and all of that stuff worked with pretty damn good success. But instead, what do you got? You get 4th and 6, and Skylar misses Tyreek on that play. We got the replay, so I don't want to blame Skylar for that. We have the advantage of replay, but he misses Tyreek, gets flushed from the pocket like he did a lot throughout the game. You try to squeeze in a tight window throw to Mike Gesicki. It goes incomplete, and it's essentially ball game from then on. Then there. Long way for me to say that. And you know what? I love Mike McDaniel. I did a video on him a couple of weeks ago about why he can't be blamed for the team's 5-game losing streak and the collapse and everything. But a remedy to this issue has to absolutely be one of the team's top priorities. I'm fumbling my words. I'm fired up right now for this offseason, because I don't know if it's him or some of the players, all of him, all on the players. But regardless, it's an elementary issue that needs to be fixed. It's hurt us all season, and you could argue that it was a big reason that we couldn't finish and pull off this upset today. Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball, because we saw a few things and we saw some adjustments as well. Because honestly, Dolphins fans, we couldn't have gotten out to much of a worse start. Agreed with that? And I said in the preview video this week that in order for us to have a chance, we needed to likely score first, or somehow try to play with a lead or a tied game as long as possible. Didn't want to get into a shootout. Didn't want to play from behind. And obviously that didn't happen. The exact opposite happened. We played from behind. We gave up all the scores right away. So what needed to be a pretty flawless game started out damn flawed, right? That's what happened. And right away defensively, what did we see? Well, we saw our boy Xavier Howard just get abused. Kind of the story of the season. And I don't want to put it all on X. We'll talk about him a little bit here. But he was just getting abused by Stefon Diggs. It gave you like these eerily similar thoughts to when Noah Igbenogany was essentially baptized by Stefon Diggs his rookie season. It kind of gave you those vibes again. Like, same team, issue with a cornerback. What are we doing here? Because it was 3rd and 17. And Xavier Howard allows the long completion to the 6-yard line to stop Stefon Diggs. Dawson Knox scores on the next play. He allowed a couple more completions before finally settling in that game. So X got out to a tough start. But what else did we see early? Well, we saw Josh Boyer essentially dialing up a zero blitz on nearly every 3rd down or obvious pass situation passing play. And the worst part was that with the zero blitz, you got to get home. You got to make that quarterback force an early throw. Well, we weren't even getting home with the zero blitz. And when you don't do that, you know as well as I do, every single player in that secondary is on an island. You're on one-on-one coverage. And if you're not getting home, those receivers know where they're going. they're at a complete advantage. So leaving those guys on an island just doesn't work out. So back to Howard for a second. I was happy to see him kind of settle in the second half. Once he got that interception, he kind of calmed down, played pretty well from then on. I was happy to see Josh Boyer get out of all that zero pressure, all that zero blitz look in the second half. But at the end of the day, I keep saying in the second half, it was too late. And like I said, I don't think any of us went into that game thinking, you know what? Let's get into a shootout with the Buffalo Bills without Tua Tagovailoa. That wasn't the game plan. That's not how this was going to work. So now we got to wait and see does Josh Boyer survive this? To be honest, if I'm making a call today, and this was before today, if I'm making a call, I'm pretty confident that he's gone. And to be fair, he was dealt an absurd amount of injuries this season that he had no control over. But at the end of the day, you got to remember, he was one of the only holdovers from the Brian Flores era. And I think that this team will ultimately go in another direction. Drop your thoughts and your comments on that one as well. Let's go to my next takeaway, because that's when things looked good. Because I got to admit, when Eric Rowe got home on that blitz and he had the wherewithal to go after the ball, force that fumble, Zach Sieler comes in, scoop and score. I started to think, you know what, we made this comeback. It might be in the stars for us. Just a day removed from the Chargers collapse and the Jags getting back in that game kind of gave us all this sense of belief. And we talked, like I said, I've talked about it ad nausea this week. Needing to play flawlessly or having the Bills implode was another thing. Well, Josh Allen threw the 2 interceptions. He had the fumble, the scoop and score. Hey, I even talked about special teams. We had the best return of our season. Cedric Wilson had a nice punt return in the end of the second quarter, which led to a field goal, I believe, or at some point in the second quarter. But following that scoop and score, we saw a different Miami Dolphins defense and what I would kind of consider to be a little bit of a shook Buffalo Bills offense. You saw Josh Allen missing passes, missing low, missing high, just all over the place. He looked a little bit rattled. We saw Jalen Phillips. How about this guy? Was pumped about him coming into the season, remained pumped about him. We saw him simply ruin a drive. He had that tackle for loss, I believe, on James Cook. Literally had a QB pressure and hit on the next play, forced the Bills into a 3-and-out. We even got a Bradley Chubb strip sack today. But what happened? Look at this, though. What happened after the scoop and score? We force a punt. We go 3-and-out and punt. We force another punt. But then on our next offensive drive, we throw an interception, and you guessed it, 3rd and 19. So that brings us all to the ever important decision on 3rd and 19. Now, honestly, there's probably, like most things, it's not always just one person. There's probably multiple people to blame in this certain situation. Mike McDaniel for not realizing, you know what, I've got a rookie 7th round quarterback. Maybe we should just call a simple run play, set up a punt, live to see another day. You got to put some blame on Skylar for throwing into an incredibly tight window. The option of bringing the ball down and running is always there. But regardless who's shouldering blame in this one, the Bills end up getting a touchdown to take a lead. Then we punt. And then they score again to increase the lead all the way back up to 10. So everything, the stars were aligning, everything looked good. Next thing you know, the Bills are up 10. And it all ultimately, it shows how potent their offense is and why we needed to be so damn flawless, despite how many chances the Bills did give us because of how often they imploded. It's a crazy game. But regardless, all that sort of goes back to that 3rd and 19 call. So that's also a learning opportunity for Mike McDaniel. It's a learning opportunity for Skylar Thompson. Unfortunately, though, those learning opportunities, they were expensive. It's a learning opportunity in a loss that sends us packing, sends us home. I always like to end on some miscellaneous thoughts as well. But I thought the end around to Jalen Waddle that got us to the 1-yard line before Jeff Wilson's touchdown, I thought that was a great call. I would love to see more Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill used in that type of capacity moving forward in the next year. That's one of my takeaways already for next year. One thing I thought that hindered us on offense was, we talked about this in the preview video as well, the lack of production on the ground on 1st down. We only ran for 42 yards on 20 carries. And now I haven't had the time. I'm recording this right after the game. I haven't gone back to see what we averaged on 1st down, but I can't imagine it would be anything more than like 2.5 yards per game. And remember back in week 15, we averaged 9.9 yards per carry when we ran the ball on first down. And yes, that was with that long Raheem Mostert. That was with that long Raheem Mostert run in that game. But even if you took that away, I think we were at either like 6 or 7 yards per play on first down in that game. And obviously, what happened when we didn't get the short and manageables, when we didn't get the third and manageables, we saw a lot of Skylar Thompson continuing to hold on to the ball too long, being flush from the pocket too often, simply just made the game more difficult than we could afford to let that game be. Next talking point here, I thought the offensive line did all right. All things considered, anyway, definitely some miscommunication, some unblocked guys on blitzes. But keep in mind, you've got Teron Armstead, Ultimate Warrior, not playing anywhere close to 100% with those injuries. You had a brand new left guard that just got called up in Cotton from the practice squad. You had Jones that shifted the right guard after playing mostly left guard all season. You had Robert Hunt shift from right guard to right tackle after playing right guard most of all the season. So you kind of had to expect some lapses, but that's another area and another positional grouping. We've been talking about offensive line for 10, 15 years. It feels like forever. But another positional grouping that we're going to have to make a priority this offseason. But lastly, the thing I want to close on, the drops. And it's an issue that's been with us throughout the season. It hasn't been with us quite as much lately. It hasn't outright killed us in a game until, unfortunately, kind of today. Waddle's early drop was brutal, not just because drops are brutal, but it was an early scoring opportunity when the game was 0-0. You have an opportunity at that point. You catch that ball, you're probably already in field goal range. You got an opportunity that completely just slipped by. Now, his other drops, I understand there was actually some good defense on those plays as well. So you got to give some credit to the defenders. But it wasn't just Waddle either. Tyreek had an early one when we were down 14-0, I believe. But these are the plays that we've grown used to and accustomed to them making, and guys that we need our leaders to make. Said it in the preview video. Tyreek goes for 1,700 yards. Waddle goes for 1,300 yards, averages 18 a catch. These are the plays that our superstars need to make in these big games. And I know drops happen, and they're far from predictable. You can't ever predict when you're going to have a bad day. But at the end of the day, it was just another reason why we couldn't pull off this upset win. And like I said, I got a lot of thoughts, a lot of takeaways. I'm going to call it quits there, but I do want to hear from you. What else do you got that I didn't touch on? Drop those in the comments. But before I sign off for today, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has subscribed, has liked, has commented throughout the season. I mean, this season was a blast. Yeah, it comes to an end. It didn't end how we would have liked it to, but that was a fun-ass season, Dolphins fans. So thank you to everyone that's been here and that continues to be here. I'm going to be here all off season. I ain't going anywhere. So when you need to scratch that Dolphins itch, you know where to go. Free agency, draft, training camp, off season, anything that's Dolphins related, I will be here. So Dolphins fans, like I said, it's been a hell of a season. Unfortunately, it came to an end today the way that we didn't really want it to, but got some shit to build on right now. We'll leave it at that, Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.